Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here. In this video, I'm going to talk about my new book, The Little Bitcoin Book. I know it's been a while since I've made a lot of these videos, so I wanted to come through and say, hey, you guys should really buy this book. Now, if you don't know the story behind this book, my co-authors and I wrote it in 4 days. There's 7 other co-authors, so 8 of us basically were in a house together, and we wrote a book together. And we basically slept at the same place, ate together, and didn't really leave. And we did all of our work in that house over 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. And it was a really interesting experience because all of us had like different parts that we were contributing to it and so on. But basically, we wanted to make a book that would be really good for pre-coiners, for people that didn't really understand Bitcoin, and not necessarily the types that are already into Bitcoin. Essentially, if you're libertarian, you at least very, very well know about it. You might not own any Bitcoin, but you at least know about it. This book makes the case, I think, from a more mainstream perspective. Maybe you don't necessarily have to be libertarian or Austrian to be convinced of the arguments from this book. And largely this is done through talking about Bitcoin from a human rights perspective and talking about how money is just so utterly and completely broken, and that Bitcoin is there to change things going forward. And we talk a lot about not only what's wrong with money and what Bitcoin is, but also what gives it value, right? Like, why is it so volatile? And there's a whole section of Q&A at the end that talks about like some of the questions that you might hear a lot of. So here's like an example. Let's see. What actually backs Bitcoin's value? The short answer is that people back Bitcoin. Enough investors buy it, so it has value. Refer to Chapter 3 for a detailed explanation of what gives Bitcoin its historically rising price. There's global demand for Bitcoin as an asset that is scarce, has utility, and does things as a technology that no other financial tool can do. So, that's just, like little things like that, snippets that hopefully can be useful to you if you are talking about Bitcoin to a lot of other people. And I know there's a lot of you that watch this show or have watched this show in the past. I get into these conversations all the time, but I also do this for a living. And I know it's not quite as easy for a lot of other people to be able to come up with this stuff if you haven't thought about it all that much, about like energy usage or something like that. It can be like a little bit of a slog trying to convince somebody. Instead, you can just hand them this book, and it's fairly cheap. It's $8.88 on Amazon, I think, and yeah, you can get copies and so on. So that's the book. Hopefully you buy it. This song is done.